All right, good morning, everybody. It is Jay again, and it is January 22nd here in Phoenix, Arizona. And man, do we have the warm weather. It feels like it's 80 degrees today. I'm not sure what it is exactly because I don't really want to know yet. It is too early for this weather or for this heat to be coming on. But it seems as though we have maybe swapped weather with Florida this year. It seems like we've got an ultra warm winter, which has been really, really good for our tropical trees. And it looks like a lot of their trees have frozen this year. And I'm not sure if they're used to dealing with something like that, but I'll just tell you guys from experience, lots and lots of experience of freezing tropical trees, that they do in fact come back, and they do in fact come back better. They bounce back, and the losers will go ahead and die on off. But even if they freeze back quite a bit, they will definitely bounce back from that. Let's take a look around today, though. It is a very, very nice day today. And let's see what's going on around the nursery. As you guys can see here, we're starting to gear up for spring. Got a lot of large, really big citrus this year. I mean, you can see here, these are all taller than me and look really, really good. Like I said, we've had a really nice winter, so everything is very, very green, and we're starting to bloom already. We're starting to get some blossoms on the citrus, and we've got a lot of bee activity out here as well. But yeah, lots of new growth on things, lots of bees. And just a beautiful sunny day. Man, these things look good. Nice dark green. This is how you want your citrus to look, and really, it's nice to keep them looking like this all year long. Everything has defoliated as far as it's going to this year. You can see that even though we didn't get the cold this year, a lot of stuff has still defoliated because a lot of the stuff that we grow is very low chill hour. So this stuff tends to defoliate no matter what each year. It doesn't really rely on too much cold. You will end up with a few green leaves on the tree, and they're usually on the ends of the branches. And what a lot of people like to do is they like to strip the rest of these leaves off of the tree and put it to sleep. Well, you're not exactly putting it to sleep. I mean, you're not going to give it any more chill hours. Obviously, by just removing the leaves, it doesn't really change the temperature, but it does stop them from photosynthesizing and at least shuts them down for a little bit. But everything else, like I said, is pretty green and looking good and ready for spring. We should be getting blooms on all the citrus here soon, and some of the stone fruit are starting to wake up a little bit early as well. But we should get promising results, definitely with the pears and the apples. Look, got a little hummingbird nest above me here, right there. All right, so you can protect a lot of your trees in the winter, but you really want to do that if they're smaller trees. If trees are a little bit larger, you really don't want to protect or cover them in the winter because you end up causing more or less like a suffocation. It's too hot underneath that plastic and those frost cloths during the day, especially. So you'd want to remove something like that. But really the best advice is to get a bunch of trees clustered together, because the thicker you can make your food forest, the better off everything is going to do. It doesn't allow a lot of cold to drop in. It's going to be the spaces that are open that get very cold and very, very hot. So when you're building a microclimate, you want it really, really dense. You don't want to see through here. You don't want to be able to see through and see your walls and fences. Okay? You want nice shade and nice cover. But like I said, even if things do freeze, they are definitely coming back. Kumquats have already set quite a bit of their fruit. These are ever-bearing in behavior, so as soon as these are ready to eat, it will put on another set of blooms. and another set of fruit. Oh, those look really nice. All right, let's peek through the yard and see if we can find anything cool. All right, so the citrus this year, no matter what, is phenomenal. As you saw, the first tree that I started out with there was a sweet lime, and you saw that it was completely loaded with fruit, but all these citrus look really good this year. They got a lot of extra water. They got a lot of extra rain. We got record rain this year in Arizona, so everything is big and beautiful colors. And then the sizes on some of these are just absolutely enormous. This is a Tango Mandarin, one of my favorites. Really large. They got really big this year, as you can see, and all these are on the same branch, and these branches aren't even that thick. I'll come up here and show you. They're not even that thick of branches, and you'll see he kind of pulls his fruit down to the ground and covers up the base of the tree. So you want to leave citrus and not trim them up, because if you trim them up, you're going to be losing a lot of this best fruit. And that's exactly what happens when the landscapers get in here and they trim up your fruit trees. You want to let them kind of hang low and shade the tree itself. The blood oranges look really good. Like I said, all the citrus performed excellent this year. Really nice, good size, color. Now the blood oranges are probably not dark red inside yet. It does usually require some cold chill in order to put the red inside these blood oranges. But if we wait a little bit later in the year and probably pick these towards March, these should have some red in them. So we'll have some nice blood oranges this year as well. Pecans. You can see the tree is just loaded, and you can see it is in fact winter here because these have defoliated and all of their nuts are up on the tree. You give it a good shake and all these will fall down to the ground. Another interesting thing that's happening right now, but has happened before, is the mangoes. All the mangoes are starting to bloom, and they've definitely bloomed early before, but it's usually cold, so you usually lose the flowers on the mangoes. But I don't believe we're going to lose them this year no matter what, because we've got, like I said, we've got a lot of that warmer weather. So a lot of the mangoes are starting to bloom. So it's good to have a good mix of tropical trees and stone fruit deciduous trees, because you never know what kind of year it's going to be. That's the reason why I named this nursery Arizona Fruit Trees, because we're ever evolving. You have to evolve pretty much every year, because every year is a little bit different. Okay, we know it's going to be hot for sure, but we may or may not get a winter. We may or may not get rain. So we really have to adapt and put in evergreens, drought hardy plants, deciduous trees in case it gets cold. And no matter what, each year you're going to get something. You may not get all of one thing that you're enjoying, right? So you might miss a few peaches one year because it didn't get cold enough, but that year you're going to get stellar mangoes because it was warm enough to make these bloom and fruit early. Man, that one's getting tall. That's at least 20 feet now, being protected by this pear, which you can see the pear goes dormant in the winter, or should be, or is half dormant, and it lets all that light back into the mango so that it can bloom. And then as it's setting its fruit, this pear will start to wake back up and fill back in with leaves, and then it will shade this mango tree all summer. So that's how you're able to get some of these larger trees to exist. If this was an avocado, it would be in its perfect spot as well, because like I said, it would be shaded in the middle of the summer and it would get plenty of winter light. So that's why you got to find that magical little spot for some of these trees, and especially avocado trees. If you want to get them taller, it's pretty easy to get an avocado tree, you know, the size of the fence there, the wall, because it's protected by the wall. But if you plan on getting it way above that point, then it's going to have no protection. So you're going to need some sort of trees to protect those trees. And you can kind of see here, they all protect themselves as you go along the line here in the day. Some are really big, some are short, some are really, really tall, right? But they defoliate. See, these taller ones usually defoliate in the winter, and they're going to let all that light back down onto your tropical trees that sit below, like your Suriname cherries, your jabuticabas, variegated citrus tends to like to burn a little bit, guavas, dragon fruit, mangoes. All these need protection in the summertime, and they need good light in the wintertime. Pomelos. But yeah, the evergreen tropical stuff looks great. In fact, it's all starting to grow here. You can see it's all putting on new growth. Wampy Wampy. I noticed some new growth on the long end. Starting to put on some new growth. Chocolate pudding fruit. Looks really good. So a lot of these plants, guys, have gone through multiple cold winters. A lot of these trees are larger, as you can see here. Right? These aren't just a couple years old. These are all fruiting size. Black sapote, chocolate pudding fruit. The white sapote is just completely covered with blooms. I've never seen anything like this. Every branch on this tree is full. There's way more flowers than leaves, and there's a ton of leaves on these trees. These trees are really pretty and thick and dense anyway. And then, man, the blooms. Things really put on the fruit. It's insane. It's everywhere, even way down here on the ground. So all these trees have frozen at some point. And in fact, a lot of these have probably frozen almost to the ground and almost killed them, but they've come back and they look really, really good. So you don't have to worry so much about the cold if you've never experienced that before. Starfruit, this one's way up there too. On up there, 20-foot point. There's really no protection, see, around him. He is the tree. Got one behind him, ice cream bean. So a lot of these are protecting it from the shade. They're shading it in the afternoon for sure. But as far as temperatures go, these tropicals, a lot of these are just up here in the sky by themselves. Chiku sapote. It's got a ton of fruit on them as well. You really got to search for these because they hide really well. But yeah, there'll be a full crop of these. And you also have to remember that a lot of these bloom and fruit during the winter. Like I just said, that the white sapote behind me, it's blooming during the winter. So they're either going to bloom during the winter, or they're going to have fruit on them in the winter, or they're going to be blooming and have fruit on them in the winter, like these chikus like to do. So eventually, like I said, eventually this stuff gets cold hardy, but it has to be shocked. Look at this new growth on these powder puff flowers. These are really pretty flowers. Find a little better one here. Really pretty. Look at that color. That hot pink, and the bees just love them. See that? The new growth is like almost like a chocolate. So yeah, your yard should really look good, especially if you're here in the valley. Should really look good this time of year. But I mainly wanted to talk about a lot of these tropicals and the cold and the fact that we do get it every year usually. You can see this peach here having a little trouble defoliating, but if you usually just give them a little shake, you know, a lot of those leaves are just going to fall to the ground because they look like they're attached, but they're not really attached. I mean, the tree's pretty much done with them. If you can kind of just, you know, yank on them like this and they just fall off in your hand, those leaves are detached. I mean, they're not going to come back in spring and then start growing. This is it. So wherever these fall off of, just like that, that's where your new branches or your flowers are going to emerge. Okay, so even though you see this and it looks green, it's pretty much dormant. See that? You just barely flick them and they come off. They're all sitting down here on the ground below him. Do not rake up the leaves. So yeah, peach went dormant right next to this apple, which pretty much has no plans of going dormant, and is actually really, really green. Really green for this time of the year, and has quite a few leaves. So there's definitely no going to sleep on this one. We'll see how much this one flowers and produces this year, although I'll probably take the fruit off anyway because the tree's not quite as big as I want it to be, although it is way above my head, so it is above 6 foot. I could, in theory, let this one fruit, but I may pull the fruit off and let him get a little bit bigger because I want him to shade a mango that I have over here that has a little bit of a rough time in the summertime. So yeah, guys, you'll oftentimes have something that is defoliated where it got cold enough to defoliate. Hopefully you guys are buying things under 300 chill hours here in the valley, and you're avoiding a lot of these high chill things like plums and pluots. A lot of the stuff that used to work here that may still work here if you're on the outskirts of the valley, but definitely if you're in town, you're going to want to go with this low chill hour stuff. But you'll literally have something defoliated right next to something green and growing like this mango tree. Right? Looks beautiful. Probably going to bloom soon. What do we got here? Maybe. Probably bloom soon. So you're having these plants right next to each other that require completely different things. This peach still green. Still pretty green. I rub them, see if they don't come off easily, then they're still attached. So hopefully we'll get a couple more cold days that will defoliate this peach. You can see he's sitting over here in the shade in the winter. So it is cooler here than it is right over here by this peach that's in the full sun, see? So that's gonna affect chill hours as well. He's pretty happy over here. Right next to this mango. Big mango that's getting up to the power lines there. I'm gonna have to trim him back soon. So yeah, that's why we want to mix things, guys. Mix things in the yard so that when things defoliate, you still have a wall of green behind you. Here's a persimmon. This is a Fuyu persimmon. You can see that if it was all stick figures out here in the winter, it wouldn't look that great, but if you've got a bunch of green stuff mixed in between, got mangoes there, chiku, it really kind of adds to the tropical feel or the green feel of your yard all year long, so that you don't have a bunch of dead tropicals and a bunch of stick figures. I will give you an example here too. This happens a lot in the winter, and it happens a lot in the summer too. So I'm going to point this out real quick here. So do you see how these leaves are chlorotic? Okay, so this is a strawberry guava. this gets chlorotic in the summer because it does not like the heat. So what a person would have a tendency to do is just throw a bunch of, chemicals and fertilizers and iron and things to kind of green these plants up. But this is a plant that does not like hot weather. So this is what it's going to look like in the middle of the summer. And this is what starfruit's going to look like in the middle of the summer as well. Okay. So this is called heat-induced chlorosis. Now we start to cool down, right? Temperatures get cooler. And you'll notice now here on the new growth, the brand new growth, it does not have that. And it's even on the same branch. See if I can show you here. So this is the new growth because we've cooled down. Nice green, nice pink growth. You go back a little ways just into summer here, and you'll see that chlorotic growth. So this same thing is going to happen on plants that like the hot weather. So let's say it's a hot weather plant, like a moringa tree, for instance, that likes the hot weather. Well, in the middle of the winter, it's going to look like that. It's going to look veiny. And people have a tendency, like I said, to just throw a bunch of nutrients at it, right? You don't want to do that. You want to know whether plants are a cold weather plant or whether they're a hot weather plant. And really the best way to determine that is to see when they're growing the most and when they look the best. That'll tell you what temperatures they like. And some things look good all year long, like these chicus. These look good in the middle of the summer. They look good in the dead winter. It's always a really good looking plant. So this is one that I would tend to veer towards. Let's look at another one right next to it, a macadamia nut. This tree really likes the winter. It likes the cold weather, okay? You can see here, it's got brand new growth on it. Right, middle of the winter, it's January. We've really cooled down. So you've got that brand new, like hot pink growth on this macadamia nut. And then if we go back to some of the older leaves, we'll see that they've got a little bit of that crisp to them from the summer because they don't like the heat in the middle of the summer. So they have a tendency to do this in the middle of the summer. They'll crisp up, they'll turn that kind of yellowy color. But then once we cool down, you don't have to do anything. Literally, it's like magic, right? You don't have to do anything, just wait till it cools, and these plants will just green right back up again. Just like that, the one that I just showed you, and starfruit is notorious for that, okay? Also, this time of the year, you'll be getting a lot of older yellow leaves, which people panic about. So you can kind of see some of these older leaves down in here are yellow and falling off, right? It's not that you've overwatered it or it's too cold or really any of that. It's just the fact that these are old leaves and it's going to start leaf cycling. So whenever you see some older leaves like that, down here on these lower branches, got some of these leaves, right? Whenever you see that, it's almost always an indication. Here's some more. See the lower ones turning yellow? It's almost always an indication that the plant's starting to grow again, okay? So they're gonna leaf cycle these off, like this one's gone, right? This one's gonna fall off. And then if we come to the end of the branch, we will see that it probably has new growth on it. Let's see here. Yep, right there, new growth. Right? So it's always, so you didn't overwater it. You need to keep the water up to it actually right now because it's going to shed a lot of these older leaves off because it's pushing all this new growth in. This is the point where people, they stop watering, especially in the middle of the winter because they think it's too cold to water. And I'll tell you, if you let your property dry out, it's going to get 10 times colder and you will freeze the plants. You will freeze the leaves of the plants. They need, especially tropical evergreen type plants, they need to be irrigated in the winter so that they keep water in the leaves. The worst thing that you can do is let things dry out. So what I do on really cold nights is I will come out here and I will just spray everything and just get everything just completely soaking wet, right? Which you might think, well, it's going to be colder, but it's not. Okay, it keeps all these things from freezing. It keeps liquid water in the leaves and it keeps them from getting that frost damage. So it seems counterintuitive, but you got to get out there and